Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, everybody. The chat is open. I hope you're ready for some pretty interesting news. Things are just going to continue to be volatile. I really don't want to I really don't want to be, you know, a doomsayer. It's not really doomy. We've got a new moon tomorrow. I know a lot of astrologers are saying the nodal shift happens tomorrow. That's because we are using different calculations. It's a matter of philosophy. I've been using the one I use for a long time. I played around with both. And you know me, I go with what's accurate for me. And if you notice what happened on the 12th, things got really interesting. Make sure you're listening to the podcast on Monday because Casey is my guest and we're talking about the WGA strike and the SAG AFTRA joining them and what that means, talking about UPS. Oh my God, I love you guys too. I love it when you show up. We're going to have a good time, right? Kiss my accuracy. That is all part of it. So we've got a little bit of a change to the slide presentation. It's the same, but it also makes my life easier because I don't have to try to do all of those mental calculations. I know I make this look easy some days, but my brain is usually working about 500 miles an hour. And so I asked Casey, because Casey gets my slide prep done. I asked her if she would please add something to make my life a little bit easier so I don't have to think as hard, which is always great. I'm going to actually just pull this up a little bit bigger. I get new glasses in a couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys saw the video I did on TikTok. Remember, I was told 2 years ago by a stupid doctor that I was losing my vision rapidly. And I was like, what? Because a couple years before that, I got a clean bill of health on my right eye. I'm just very myopic, but there was no macular problems, which is, if you don't know anything about eyeballs, that's a big deal if you have macular degeneration. And I don't. And so the ophthalmologist I went to, because I absolutely needed a new prescription, showed me my retina and all is well. So doesn't mean I have good eyes. It just means I'm not going to go blind anytime soon, which is a huge relief. Thank God. So that was a relief. So see, good stuff can happen. All right, let's take a look here. I'm going to clean my glasses because it's like now that I know I have a new prescription coming, my eyes are like, we don't like these glasses. All righty. So we've got the balsamic moon happening right now. So if you're kind of in your feels, that's pretty normal with the balsamic moon because we've got to like shed some stuff we can before we can really embrace what's coming with the new moon. The new moon is a time of setting intentions. And so it's super important for you guys to look forward, super important to look forward and not kind of get lost in the past. You got to release stuff, right? You got to release stuff. That's super important. And releasing the past is important because the present moment is where you make your future, right? And all you have is the present. So it's just a good opportunity to sit down. If you haven't listened to the podcast I made for patrons only, go do that because I helped you walk through your intentions. Let's see. New moon is on July 17th and the new phase lasts through the 20th. Now, this is going to be really interesting because that new moon happens in the late degrees of Cancer. It's at 2458 because it's approaching my sun because my birthday is on the 21st, and it'll tick into Leo about 7 hours and some change after that new moon, and I think it's gonna be a little loud, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that new moon, it's going to kick off some interesting things. And I think we're looking at labor movement, but also temperatures. Be very careful. It's a very hot summer. very dry, especially with Venus remaining in Leo. And then we have Mars in Virgo. And Virgo is like harvest energy. It's not great for sustenance, it's about revision. So we're really going to see what needs revising. Let's see. We have the waning crescent July 21st through July 24th. July 21st through July 24th. The sun remains in Cancer until the 22nd. It'll kick over to Leo. The aspects we have forming in the transits are Mercury square Jupiter and the new moon on Monday. Mercury square Jupiter is going to be some fantastic accidents. So be careful driving. That'll be a little bit a lot. We'll also hear some news about food. And if you check the news headlines in the Discord, I put up one showing, there's still a lot of flooding in Central California where a lot of food is grown. Keep your hydroponics. Let's see. Sun trine Neptune on the 20th. That's not unusual when we have, everything in water signs, or fire signs or whatever, I have that in my natal chart. It'll be kind of a day where your intuition, even if you don't have, water signs in your chart, you've got, well, you do. Everybody has all the signs. Let me back up and stop talking out of my butt. Even if you don't have a water sign placement in the late degrees, the fact that we have the sun trine Neptune means we'll probably be a little more sensitive. Everybody collectively will be a little more sensitive. The sun opposes Pluto on my birthday. That's exciting. That's exciting. That's not my solar return, but I mean, technically Pluto's opposite my sun and Mercury. Sliding back to that. So that'll be fun. I don't think, we could see some extreme temperatures. We could see some things going on. Like Europe is really getting hit, but I think we might see some stuff in Southeast Asia as well. Even in the southern hemisphere, we could see some big precip happening. And there might be some more seismic activity. Alaska had a pretty big quake. If you noticed, I put for July that there was an increased likelihood of quakes over 6.0. So Alaska had a 7.4 last night. We might see a little bit more of that. Don't freak out about it. Okay. I haven't looked directionally. I just haven't. I'm not that worried about California. I live here and I'm not feeling the urge to go look. So let's see, 722. We have Venus retrograde and the sun ingresses into Leo on the 22nd. So that should be an interesting day and start an interesting week. And you'll hear about it on the podcast a little bit where I talked about Venus retrograde. It's nothing to be worried about. Okay. If I hear, do I need to be worried? Do I need to be afraid one more time? I'm going to be frustrated. No, you do not have to worry. So here are the moon signs for the week. Remember, the moon takes 54 hours to change signs. We have Cancer through the 17th, then Leo from later on the 17th into the 20th, July 20th through the 22nd. The moon is in Virgo, and then it slides into Libra on the 22nd, and it'll stay there until the 25th. No way. Maybe it's like really late at night on the Pacific coast. We'll have to see. We might have a typo there. Shit happens. We'll find out. I'll take a look. Remember, you've got your month ahead outlook there as well in the Patreon. I'll try to get that linked up into this post. Now, I did a video about how to find the transits. If you guys watch that, that should help you look for the transits. If you're in Living by Luna, notice I closed that tier. I'm going to be adding some work to that shortly. Okay. I still have freed up my time a little bit to get some more writing done. I've been working on the card deck. We got to make some changes to it before it hits the world, but I was still overwhelmed and cried. Here's your July astrology. Remember, you get the monthly outlook every month. I missed June. I know, I was sick. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes, everybody. Meat and potatoes. So this is the big change. See, I've got the houses and the dates, so I don't have to look it up. Isn't that nice? I don't have to think so hard. So if you're an Aries rising at 0 degrees, like if that's your rising, or if the moon is moving through your 4th house on the 15th through the 17th, so that's your current transit, the 17th might be a little crunchy for you. There might be issues with your home. Make sure you're paying attention to your appliances. If you've got roommates or family living with you, other people living with you, or your pets, there could be some crankiness going on. It might be a really Monday-ish Monday at work. You might want to be like, I just want to be on vacation. That may be the feel. It'll switch to your 5th house though by evening. And even though it's a weeknight, you may decide to have a little bit more fun. You could be more creative. It might be a day like the first part of Monday. You might just be so sick of the SHIT that you decide you want to start a passion project. If you do, you're going to have a lot of inspiration from the 5th through the 20th. Though when the moon is squaring off with Jupiter, when the moon moves into Leo on the 17th, that might be where you just get so frustrated that you get the inspiration to work on something because you have this desire to have a little bit more fun. If you have kids and the moon is moving through your 5th house on the July 17th through the 20th, they might be a little cranky. Remember, everybody is sensitive. Everybody's feeling it. We often think we're the only ones feeling stuff, right? Yeah, everybody is. We're looking at collective energy and people are going to be a little toasty. When the moon is in the 6th house, the 20th through the 22nd, that's when the moon is going to be, and I should have had her put the moon signs. Let me pull this up on my phone so I can look at both. Leo, Virgo. Okay, so it'll be in Virgo, and you're going to be more likely to feel. I'm just going to pull this up here. Hang on. There we go. You're going to feel a little more likely, like paying attention to your routine, your habits. You might want to work out a little bit. Pay attention to your diet on those days. Anytime the moon is moving through your 6th house, Aries rising, or if you have Virgo in your 6th house, you want to pay attention to your diet, pay attention to your stress levels, work out that nervous energy. That's one of the reasons you do need to stay active. And if things are stressful, put a system together. Mars, the moon will be conjunct Mars on the 20th. And so you might just feel super active, but you also might have people getting nitpicky on the job if you work in customer service or with the general public. God help you. It won't be the worst day you've ever had, but oh my God, will you have a story or two? And then the moon moves into the 7th house on the 22nd through the 25th. And that will be when the moon is, hang on. Yeah, that'll be in Libra. And that's going to be an interesting time on the mundane level. For you, you might be taking a look at your obligations and your agreements. And I'm going to say it again. I say it every time. If it isn't fair to you, it's not fair to anybody. but likewise, it has to be fair to the other parties as well. So it's a good time. It's actually not a bad time to have conversations with a partner or somebody you're in a contract or agreement with on the 22nd. Don't have the conversations. Don't hear me out. Don't don't on the 25th. That's not the day. Even on the late 24th, not the day. Don't have those conversations. It doesn't matter what you want. Okay. It's not a good day to have those relationships. Those whole we need to talk. Yeah, no, don't do that. So you're probably already feeling, by the way, with the nodal shift, and I'm saying the nodal shift happened on the 12th. We already had a big shift in energy. And if you have 29 degrees Aries in that first house, you're probably kind of feeling like you're up on deck in some way. You might be having to kind of take on more for yourself, understand yourself. This is a great time to do some self-actualization work. This is really, really the most important time to kind of work on you, and you'll have opportunities show up as well. I don't know why people think the nodal shift is a negative thing on the collective. It's just energy changes produces some cranky stuff. But on an individual level, nodes they're not negative. So I don't understand where these so-called astrologers are getting all that from. All right, Taurus rising. Taurus rising, the moon is currently, as I record this, in the third house if you have a 0 degrees Taurus rising, or if you have the third house with Cancer. Um, you need to pay attention when you're driving, like especially on the 17th. If you're driving to work on Monday, you really want to pay attention, okay? Because if you're doodling around on your phone or fiddling with the radio, you might have some problems. Watch your speed, okay? Watch your speed. It's not a great time to get into political arguments or philosophical arguments. You want to have conversations. Don't set your heels in so hard. Just listen to people a little bit, and understand that opinions are opinions. People have them. It's not a good time because things can get a little cranky, especially on the 17th. And that might spill over to home when the moon moves into Leo. If you have Leo in the fourth house, like we're talking like on the 17th, it'll be when it slips into 0 degrees. Um, it's probably gonna be a little loud at home. Now that loud doesn't have to be bad, but it might be a little cranky in towards the evening when Mercury is, that whole day, there may be some issues at home. It could be like physical appliances. It could be people arguing about money. It could be people arguing about their space and their time, or it could just be you're having a raucous good time. Doesn't have to be bad, but home is up on deck the 17th through the 20th. There might be family members who have needs to attend to, and you may not get the naps you want, which, that's kind of a pisser when you're a Taurus rising. The moon moves into your fifth house on the 20th. If you've got a Taurus rising, or not all Taurus risings, or if you have the moon I can speak. If Virgo is your fifth house, the moon in Virgo will slide in on the 20th and stay there through the 22nd. You might be doing your favorite activities and you might double down on those. You might get super energized when the moon is conjunct Mars. That's going to happen like let me look, late on the 20th or early on the 21st. Yeah, because Mars is at like 3 degrees. So So you may just be fully energized. You may really want to double down on like a personal project or something that brings you joy. So whatever your special interest is, because you do it with such attention to detail. So that's something to remember. All right. So if you've got a Taurus rising or Virgo on that fifth house, yeah. So it's actually the moon will slide into Virgo at about 10:31 a.m. Mars will be at 6 degrees that day. So like 12 hours later. So it'll be in the evening. You might have trouble sleeping because you're like so inspired, but even if you do sleep, your brain's going to be working on stuff. So then on the 22nd through the 25th, you're looking at work. The moon moves into Libra. The first part of that won't be too bad. The first part of that won't be too bad. You might have a good day on the 20th, and you might get a lot done, to be honest. And then like people will be actually working together, and it'll function very nicely. But on the 25th, it might get a little wild, or late on the 24th. So there might be issues with coworkers. You might have like a tummy ache or a backache if I'm just going to check where that moon is at. Yeah, so on the 24th, the moon's at 17 degrees. 25th. Yeah, so it'd be early in the morning. It'd be like the start of your day. So if you've got stress, Taurus rising, or you've got the moon moving into the sixth house, or it's in the sixth house on the 25th at the late degrees, and I'm talking like 6 a.m. Pacific, so that's like 9 a.m. Eastern. If your back hurts, you've been stressed out, you need to attend to yourself. You might want to make sure you have your headphones, not while you're driving, but if the team isn't working, or maybe somebody's sick on your team, you have to take on a little more responsibility. That is a possibility. Gemini, Gemini rising, or if the moon in Cancer is in your second house, you're thinking about the money, honey. The 17th new moon is a great time for you to set your intentions around finances. It's a time to look at how you want to produce things, how you want things coming to you, and maybe work on your money mindset a little bit. Money mindset is important, okay? Because if you think you're never going to get ahead, guess what? You never ever will. If you're only looking at the problems, you're never going to find the solutions. And Gemini rising, you can be plucky. Let's look at that. You're going to be looking at what you value and what's important to you. And then on the 17th, when the moon moves into Leo, oh boy, because Mercury is square Jupiter as well. You may find that you are just dealing with some issues. You may be finding yourself dealing with some old issues um around the past. You might be like, Lori, I'm trying to think about the future, but the past just keeps coming up. You're gonna have to move through that and find the present moment. So do your best to stay as present as you can. Be a little creative. Do something besides doom scroll. Stop just overthinking. You're like, I'm a Gemini rising. What are you talking about? Yeah, and you can stop overthinking. I have a Gemini Venus. I don't overthink all the time, right? I got a Mercury rule chart. There are times I think of nothing. I don't suggest you start there though. So the moon in Leo moves into your third house on the 17th, a little bit later in the day. And this is going to kind of continue with some of the clapback coming, or feeling like you have to defend yourself, or feeling like you have to explain things to people. Careful when you reply to texts and emails. Remember, people aren't reading that with your voice. They're reading it with theirs. And if they're in a bad mood, they're going to read it in a snarky way. very, very careful. Keep things factual to the point. You are really attached to some of your ideas. You can be very attached to your ideas. Understand other people are attached to their ideas too. If you want to make it through, because the moon is going to be square Mars from the beginning of that transit. So if you have siblings, it's not the time to talk about the mom and dad's will. Okay. It's not going to go well. Be careful driving or be careful on public transportation because things might get a little weird. Okay. So just keep your eyes out. But if you stay mindful in general, you might come up with a hell of a good idea. So that's a good thing. Fourth house, the moon will be moving into your fourth house, or if the fourth house for you is Virgo. Uh, Fam is up on deck. It could be family, it could be the house, it could be housemates, anything to do with your current living situation. When the moon's in your fourth house, you don't have to look at family patterns. I think sometimes people feel obligated. That's not necessary. You do not have to do that. I'm against ruminating over the past because I know how much it slowed me down when I was younger because we often misinterpret shadow work. We often misinterpret understanding how to break family patterns. If you go down that rabbit hole too much, you're just gonna kind of get yourself stuck in the mud. So when the moon is in Virgo, it's a really good time to do a deep clean on your house, do some rearrange your furniture, or look at what you can do. It's not a great time to have big family discussions. That's probably not the best day for it. So family stuff is up on deck between the late 17th through the 22nd. Listen, write things down, but getting into fights isn't going to help, and no, you're not going to have a resolution. Okay. So, and if you want to fight and you don't want those relationships, those are great days for it. Okay. If you're like, I am so done, well, that's a great day to make it done. The moon moving through the fifth house, or if you have the Libra on your fifth house cusp, the 22nd is fine. Okay. You're probably wanting to just do something more pleasant, more fun, whatever your idea of fun is. And then things get a little more interesting towards the 25th when the moon will be squaring off with Pluto and opposing the nodes. Something from the past, but it might be a past activity or a past interest. Maybe you used to do pottery and you haven't done it in 5 years and you get a woolly hair that you want to go take a pottery class, right? Because the North Node is in your 11th house. So maybe doing a group activity. That is a great idea. Look for those things that are going to bring you more joy. Don't mourn things that are no longer there to an extreme. I'm not saying you can't miss stuff, but instead of saying, oh, I don't know why I don't do my art anymore, I miss doing my art. Well, then go look for a way to do your art, guys. Okay. You can always move forward. Maybe you don't have the money for it right now, but there's something else you can do. Okay. So maybe you liked pottery, but you can't afford to do it. You can't afford the kiln. You can do needle felting with wool. That is an unbelievably affordable way to sculpt. Okay. Takes a minute to get good at it, but not that long. I can do it, and I'm not good at any of the other stuff. All right, Cancer rising, the moon in your first house in Cancer, July 15th through the 17th. You're feeling a little bit more energetic than you have in a little while, and that's gotta feel good. You've been kind of dragging lately, and the new moon is a great time for you to set intentions around your confidence, around how you want to put yourself out there. I'm not going to go into it too deep because I already did that on the Patreon podcast, or yeah, Patreon only podcast. But this is a time you're kind of feeling yourself. It's a great time to set some goals around your confidence, or just take account. Now, this is where I do want you to get a little nostalgic. for Cancer rising, or if the moon in Cancer is in your first house, I want you to look at how much you have grown. You're so nurturing. You support a lot of people. You're a lot of people's cheerleader, but you need to cheerlead yourself here. Think about a year ago. Where were you at? And look at you today. What have you gotten better at? What have you gotten better at? You've grown. You've grown, Cancer. So that's something. Now the 17th, it can be a little crunchy in the outer world. If you're in a relationship, I'm going to tell you to don't have the talk. Don't, unless you want to end the relationship. If you want to end the relationship, it's a good day to start a new relationship cycle, but it's as in being, if you're, and if somebody asks you, for a further commitment, it's not a bad day to start something new. But if you're in a contentious relationship and you're not DONE, put a fork in you, done, it's not a great day to have that talk. It's not going to get you quite where you want to be. When the moon enters Leo, if it's in your second house, that'll remain there through the 17th through the 20th. And it's going to be interesting. There's some big stuff up when it comes to your security. It could be finances, but it could also be to do with self-worth. You might have a critic out there. You might have somebody thinking you're not all that. And this goes back to those first house intentions. You got to be your biggest cheerleader. And it could just be a troll on the internet. Okay. I'm not talking like your best friend betrays you. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, there just might be some opinions come at you. And if you've had like low self-esteem, and you might, then this might be a little crunchy. Now, the Mercury and Jupiter are going to be square. They're kind of square now as I record this, and they're going to be square through like at least the 18th by orb. And so Mercury's in your second house. You're already thinking about different ways you can make money or bring more in or get more work or feel better about the work you do in the world. You want to kind of double down on working on your self-esteem because, again, with Jupiter in Taurus in the 11th, there's maybe an issue with the audience, that whoever your social media, more likely, don't get involved in internet drama. Just don't. It's not going to go well, and it's not going to do anything to make you feel better. So what you do want to do is take that frustration or take a look at how you can feel better about what you're doing and maybe streamline your income streams. That would be or add to it. Look at how you can add to it because you really can, because there's only so much we can take out of the budget, right? So you want to look at ways you can add a little bit in. When the moon enters Virgo, if it's entering your third house, or you can go back through any of these because not everybody has it all starting at the same time. If the moon is entering your third house, July 20th, when it hits Virgo, watch your need for speed. Okay. Watch your need for speed. You might walk fast that day. You might drive fast that day. Keep your eye on things. Don't be up in your head. I know you tend to be, but don't. Slow it down. Slow it down. You might be thinking in circles or using circular logics. If you do that, I want you to stop. I want you to breathe. And I want you to think before you respond to a text, an email, an internet comment, anything in communications. I want you to just take a minute. Just take a minute because it's going to be a little contentious, but you also might get some interesting mail. You might have an interesting offer. It's not all bad. It's just you might just be overthinking a little bit. So I want you to be a little careful with that. When the moon enters your fourth house, or if your fourth house starts at like 0 degrees Libra on the 22nd, it'll enter. Okay, but the moon in Libra will be moving through from the 22nd to the 25th because it goes really late. If you're like, how is it going 22nd to the 25th? Because it's entering very late in the day on the West Coast. It might even be the 23rd on the East Coast when that happens. family stuff is up. You might be feeling a little nostalgic. It's not bad timing, the 22nd, 23rd. Um, It'll probably be reasonably good. It might be a great time to just kind of kick it around the house. And, so a nice weekend. But the 25th, oh gosh, there might be some family drama, or you might be dealing with healing process, or your roommates. You might have stuff around the house, or it could be work related. There might be some stress and some tension. Deep breath, it leads to good things later. Just keep asking yourself, what's my objective, before you get into it with anybody. And you'll be like, but I don't get into it with people. Well, but you might internalize that stress. So make sure you're doing whatever you can do to make your environment feel pleasant. And that'll kind of offset whatever tension is happening early on the 25th. Leo rising. We're almost to Leo season, and you can almost taste it, touch it, feel it. And right now the moon is in your 12th house. So all by myself, you might be dealing with some woo-woo stuff. You might be meditating more. You might be leaning into your intuition. And you might also be a little anxious. And, a lot of actors have Leo placements or Leo risings, funny enough. Not all. And you might be worried, like with the strike going on, or if you've wanted to be an actor and, now you can't do auditions and things like that. Um, so there might be some worry around that. 12th house transits don't have to be gnarly, but they tend to be quiet. They tend to be contemplative. And the new moon is happening in that 12th house. And it's a really good time to set intentions around your receptivity to spirit, your connection with source, however you believe, to create new rituals for yourself and let go of some old worries, right? Now, moon hits a Leo, so it'll be in your first house on the 17th, after about 8 hours after that new moon. So towards evening, towards dinner time ish. Um, and first of all, you're gonna feel a bounce. You're gonna feel a bounce. You're gonna have a little bit more energy, and obviously, you tend to have good hair days, but your hair will be spectacular, or you'll feel better. Okay. Um, and then the 18th, you're probably gonna be dealing with some stuff. There might be there might be some issues if you're looking at changing your career. Maybe you're feeling a little dissatisfied. Maybe it's not doing what you want it to do, or maybe you're wanting something more out of life. You'll be really contemplating that on the 17th and 18th, mostly the 18th. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your job. Don't freak out about that. But what it does mean is you're wanting to make maybe a bigger difference. But I want you to take account. This is a good time to take account of the difference you actually have been making. So sometimes we don't really celebrate that about ourselves. So, but it could be there's an authority figure just not noticing, like a boss or something, not recognizing your efforts. And if that's the case, well, maybe you do need to look for something better, but have you asked for what you need either? And that's coming up next on the 20th when the moon moves into Virgo. It's a good time to really assess, what do you need to feel secure? And it's not just money. We always turn to money, but is it what makes you feel secure? Do you need acknowledgement? Do you need better systems in your life? And I'm not talking about a better day planner, although I'm sure you love those. But you might need just a better way of measuring your success, or measuring how you get your needs met. Okay. Right. We've got Venus retrograde on the 23rd. That's not a bad thing for you if you're getting freaked out by the little internet astrologer people. Don't be freaked out. It's actually a good thing that if it's hanging out in your first or second house, for you to just reassess what really matters to you. what really matters to you, so you're not compromising your integrity or compromising your authority. That's super important. So when the moon is in Virgo on the 20th, you'll have a chance to like sit down and really take account of what matters to you. If you do that a little bit ahead of time, it'll make that transit a little easier, because on the 21st, the moon will be conjunct Mars, and it's going to be maybe you'll have a little more hustle and drive. You might have a little more hustle and drive. I think Mercury might still be in square. No, it's not. This is like the hang on a second. I'm just taking a look. Give me a second. You'd think I'd have it memorized. I've been looking at my solar return for a year, but no. Hang on. Now you know what it's like hanging out with me all the time. I'm always pulling charts. Yeah, so it'll be late on the 20th, early on the 24th or 21st when the moon is conjunct Mars. That's going to give you some hustle, or at least think about how you want to hustle or move. And hustle for you doesn't mean you have to grind, grind, grind. You just need a better support system and a better structure. So kind of take account of how you do things. And don't give yourself a hard time for not being organized, but just be like, hey, what frees up my time? What gives me more earning power? How can I better align this? And then don't worry about like, oh, I still have to be a good person. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's insecurity speaking. You're already if you're worried about being a good person, you're probably a good person. Because let me tell you, people who aren't good people don't care. So, yeah, the 25th, actually, sorry, the 22nd, the sun moves into Leo, and that should feel a little bit better if you have a 0-degree Leo rising, and I know a bunch of you do. But if you have a later rising, don't worry, it's coming for you too. It's not going to be as quiet. You're not going to be as tired. On the 22nd, the moon moves into Libra in your third house, not and, but or. And actually, sorry, I'm going to take it back. Um, on the 21st, actually, Leo rising, you might get some good financial news. And so if you've had a talk with your boss, they might have thought about it, and you may get exactly what you need, because the moon will be trine Jupiter, and that's really nice. And then when the moon moves into the third house, again, I want you to pay attention to your driving, or paying attention to other drivers on the road, especially on the 25th in the morning when the moon in Libra is squaring off with the node, or sorry, opposite the north node. The node will be on the moon. There's probably some interesting stuff happening that day. You might get a really interesting text or email. It's up to you how you respond. You don't have to, if an ex gets a hold of you or something, you don't have to respond. But I think it'll be more to do with like an educational institution or an opportunity for training you might have missed before in the past. You might get something. But Pluto will be, square these things. And so, um, you know, you know, don't clap back that day. All right, Virgo rising. Mars is in your first house. Hopefully, if it's not, it will be. Hold tight. I know my daughter's a late Virgo rising, so it's not there yet for her. It's not fun. But anyway, the moon in Cancer is in your 11th house. The moon in Cancer is in your 11th house. You're probably busier than you wanted to be for the last couple of days. The new moon happens in the 11th house. This might be a good time to set intentions around collaborative work, collaborative processes. So that's a good thing. It might also be a little crunchy dunchy. Maybe things are moving slower than you want, and you can be a little impatient sometimes, Virgo rising. I know you have that wonderful beautiful poker face, but inside the hamsters are running at opposite ends at high speed. So work off any frustrations. The moon will be in your 12th house the 17th through the 20th. This is going to be a really quiet time for you. It can be a little frustrating. It's not as it's not the funnest transit, but it is a good time to rest up and connect with your source and your spirit. You might be dealing with some old anxiety. If you are, remember what works for you to bring it down. You got to guard your peace, Virgo rising. You don't have to let stuff run away with you. You don't have to let your mind run away with you. You can work out, you can do something physical. You want to have something you're focusing on. It could be, you do want to be careful if you're somewhere hot though. Like if you're outside, don't get, you probably stay hydrated because you think about these things. But you do want to like maybe connect more with meditation, do something to bring that anxiety down a little bit, be very mindful because it's just not going to help you. You're going to get an upset tummy if you're overthinking when that moon is in Leo. The first house, when the moon gets into Virgo in the first house, then you'll probably feel a little bit better and you might feel really motivated on the 21st in the morning. Like you just might be like, that's it. No shit. I'm doing it. And the Rocky theme is, dun 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 dun. It's playing in your head and you're just ready to take at it. You're probably feeling pretty good through that transit and something you probably get some good news on the 21st that will make you a little bit happier. So deep breaths on that. Deep breaths on that. The Your second house is lit up when the moon moves into Libra on the 22nd. And it's kind of a mixed bag. If the sun has moved into your 12th, you might be a little tired and you're still not quite where you want to be. It's okay. Be patient. You're not going to be treading water forever. With the moon in the second house, you're really looking at how you can create more wealth coming in or how you can like how you can work. You got to remember you have Libra in the second house. And if you have planets there, even more so, you need to work with other people. And that can be a little hard because people aren't always as quick as you are. So I want you to take, a little bit of a breath and listen to other people because sometimes you see as far out in the future as Sag, right? And sometimes things take a process and you can get frustrated that people aren't on the same page with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're very quick and you're very perceptive, but not everybody is as perceptive as you. And you need to look for ways to communicate what you need from people to get those ambitions done, to feel secure, and do things a little more step by step. Okay. Step by step. Because sometimes you look for people to lead you. Um, and then you're like, why is that leader so dumb? Right. And that's kind of frustrating. So don't do that to yourself. Look at where you can do part of this as much as possible. Don't hamstring yourself. Don't think there isn't anything you can do and you have to wait for somebody else. There probably is something you can do just a little bit, even if it's to get things organized and write it out into a plan. Libra rising. The moon is in your 10th right now. You might be a little bit busy. This is a great time on the 17th with the new moon to set intentions around what you really want in life, and how you want to be seen, what your reputation is. If you're really overly concerned with how people view you, this is a good time to kind of take account of what people actually say to you. How often do you get thanked for being helpful and supportive? How often are you appreciated by other people? Like if you need to take account of that instead of just being like, nobody sees me, nobody appreciates me, I do everything. Don't do that to yourself. Stop it. You're probably way more appreciated than you like to admit to. The moon will be in your 11th house when it is in Leo. This is going to be very interesting. You might be a lot busier in your community. You might be wanting to tap your professional network. You want to be communicating with people. Yes, you do support people, but it's okay to make an ask in community as well. Sometimes you don't do that. Sometimes you're so busy helping other people. And you think, oh, I don't want to ask for help. That's for people who really need it. No, you need it too. It's okay to ask for it. It isn't a sign of weakness. You're not being needy when you say, hey, I could use a little support. Um, but think of the kind of support that will be helpful to you so you can name it. It's also a good time to maybe be in a mentoring role. But the 20th, I was just thinking the 20th with the moon in Leo. That's all right. It's the 20th when the moon moves into Virgo. If it's in your 12th house, then you might be overthinking hard. And it's probably funny. If you made the ask, then you're probably sitting there like overthinking, like, what do people think of me? Oh my God, they're gonna think I'm a basket case, or they're gonna think there's something wrong with me. Don't do that, Libra rising. Okay. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. When the moon is in your 12th house, this is a time to get really structured with your meditations and your spirituality and your connection with the all that is. This is a good time to go hug a tree. This is the time to sit down and put your butt on the ground and get grounded. Do not be up in your head, Libra rising, when the moon is in Virgo or your 12th house. That's not going to help you. And it's a great time to start a new spiritual routine. It could be something where you sit with your cards, or you do some art, or arrange a rock garden or something, or make a little labyrinth that gives you kind of a focused meditation. You don't want to try no mind meditation, Libra rising. What you want to do is an active meditation, where you can physically kind of move the energy through your body. That's going to help you the best. First house, Libra moon on the 22nd when the moon is in Leo, further energizing that 11th house. So I think you're going to find a lot of community support. I think you're going to be like feeling better about yourself, especially on the 22nd. Once the moon moves into that first house, if it's moved through your first house. Remember, everybody has a different chart. And I did the transit video to help you find where transits are moving around, and you're going to look for the moon. So if the moon is in your first house, or if you have Libra in your first house, the 22nd is probably a pretty good day. The 25th might be a little growth oriented. You like that? You like how I said that? A little growth oriented. You might be kind of assessing past situations. You might be thinking about old things, but you might also have an opportunity for a new contract. This could be with a contractor, a lease, a job. It could be with a best friend. You might have a new friend come into your life. It doesn't mean you're going to meet the love of your life. Sorry. I'm not saying you won't either, but Pluto is square the nodes. So from your fourth house. And so my guess is you're just reassessing how you're obligating yourself, how much you're giving versus how much you're receiving. Libra rising, it's really okay for you to receive as much as you give. Scorpio rising. The moon is in Cancer, and that could be your ninth house. So if you're a Scorpio rising, it's 0 degrees, or if the moon in Cancer is moving through your ninth house, you're probably thinking about production, publishing, teaching, travel. You might be itchy for a road trip. The new moon on the 17th is a good time to set intentions around anything to do with marketing, production, teaching, learning at a higher level, getting another credential. But I'm going to say own your expertise. Own your expertise, Scorpio. Sometimes you don't. right? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes I know everybody thinks you're tough, Scorpio rising, but you're like you and Virgo rising have a lot in common. Sometimes that poker face gets you into trouble because you're afraid to be seen as vulnerable because you probably dealt with a bunch of jerks in childhood, or people who didn't appreciate all of the coolness that is you. And so you often think you have to prove yourself more and more and show up with more than you need to. On the 17th, I want you to just really own what you know. You know what you know. Even if you're young, you have skills and abilities, okay? I want you to pay attention to that. The moon, if it moves into your 10th house while it's in Leo, and that's anywhere between the 17th and the 20th, um, it's gonna be interesting for you. It's kinda time to shine. It's kinda time to shine. You're gonna be noticed. You couldn't not be noticed if you didn't wanna be. The 21st might be an interesting day because, um, there's just a little tension there for you, but what I want you to do is let yourself roar, don't just take it, okay? I know I've told everybody else to cool their jets, but, you know, you stay quiet a lot. And so maybe kind of showing up with some of your leadership qualities is exactly what's necessary. So don't be afraid. Will there be pushback if you do it? Yeah. Yeah, there will be. But there'll be a lot worse pushback inside of you if you don't. Okay? So you need to kind of express your rar. All right. If the moon is moving through the 11th house on the 20th through the 22nd in Virgo, um, this is a community time. This is taking a look at making sure the systems are in place, when it comes to support networks, professional networks, and begin in collaboration. So if you've been working on a collaborative project, this might be time to get those outline done. So you might be really inspired late on the 11th, late on the 20th, early on the 21st to do that, and be like, oh my gosh, I'm now inspired. Just run with it, run with it, run with it. I know you need to go to the grocery store, but I'm telling you, run with making that outline. Okay. Run with those collaborative projects. The 20 up to the 22nd, that Virgo transit's probably going to feel pretty good. And you might get a benefit like on the 21st with the moon trine Jupiter in your seventh house. So there might be like a new agreement. You might have a new, like, it's not an obligation, it's like a commitment that feels really good. That's nice. And then you might be a little tired when the moon is in Libra if it's going through your 12th house. It's just a quieter time because I think you have a really busy week, and the 22nd is a Saturday, the 23rd is a Sunday. And so you're probably just chilling and relaxing. You might have had a lot going on. Don't let your mind overwork either. You're very good at imagining worst case scenarios and seeing things where it's out of balance. For you, it's time to do something soothing. You want to do something very soothing. If your house is a wreck because your anxiety has gone off the charts while being busy, it's time to tidy the house, because your environment will, like, if you clear your environment, you're going to bring down that anxiety, Scorpio rising. It'll also be a really good time for you to maybe do some artwork that's just kind of meditative. It doesn't have to be like anything you have to think about, but like think about coloring in a coloring book, something like that. Listening to your favorite tunes, just bring it down because don't start obsessing because you know what happens when you do. Sagittarius rising. If the moon in Cancer is running through your eighth house, July 15th through the 17th, it might be a bit of a woo woo time. It's also a quieter energy time. You might be like, you might be feeling a little toasted right now, but the new moon happen. If the new moon is happening in your eighth house, it is a great time to set intentions around any kind of research projects, around any kind of um like metaphysical work, occult work, if you want to get better at reading cards or using your intuition or studying mediumship, this is time to set around that. Don't say, oh, me, it couldn't be. Yeah, you, it can be. When the moon is moving through that ninth house, when it's in Leo, July 17th through the 20th, this is a time to think about maybe travel plans, what you want to do. It might be like you might be a little frustrated because you can't do something you want to do. So look at your aspirations, look at your goals. If you haven't been really clear about them, it's hard to reach them. If you're limiting, if you have limiting beliefs, this is a good time to kind of root those out and say, well, I might not be able to do this yet, but I might be able to do this. Right. So you can set some benchmarks for yourself. If you want to learn something new, this is a good time to kind of explore it a little bit. And yeah, maybe you can't go to the Caribbean right now, but you might be able to take a day trip. Okay. So this is you're not compromising, you're not giving up on yourself. You're looking at things like what you can do. Keep an optimistic outlook. You know things work better for you when you do. All right. The moon in Virgo will be hitting your 12th house between the 20th and 22nd, Sagittarius rising. And it's energized. You may be very noticed. If you think your bosses haven't noticed you, think again. You are really appreciated for all of the work you do. You're very appreciated. You're very, like way more than you realize. And you might have something kind of cool. Like you might be like recognized either financially or through an award or a thank you on the 21st. So if the moon is in your 10th, that'll be very cool. You might even get like an offer for a better position or something that's a little more fulfilling. But you're definitely appreciated by the people out in the world. The moon moving into your 11th house on the 22nd through the 25th. This is a time to kind of tap your professional network. 22nd and the 21st into the 23rd are better, or sorry, 21st, sorry, 22nd, 23rd, 24th are better days. I really think the moon is moving to Libra so late on the 22nd, I'd almost call it the 23rd. Remember, it takes 54 hours, so it doesn't go in at the same time every day. But anyway, so the 23rd, 24th are probably the better days. The 25th, there might be an issue in your professional network or community, or you might be frustrated by something, but it causes an epiphany. If you've been working on a collaborative project, things might be kind of weird on the 25th, or there just might be something that happens in your community and it'll have echoes of the past. Okay. There might be some drama, or there might be like in your living community, in the wider community, like the greater metro area where you live or whatever, there might be like something big happen. You're like, whoa, that hasn't happened since this far away, like 10 years ago, something like that. For you personally, this is a good time to just kind of let that frustration, if you feel any, like build inspiration and be creative with it. There's lots of ways to be creative. Okay. So as they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's some solution that you can arrive to. Oh, Capricorn rising. Partnerships are up on deck. You're looking at your obligations and your contracts, and the 17th is a very good time to set intentions around what you want out of those one-on-one relationships, whether it's a business partner, a life partner, a platonic partner, a best friend, a client. It's good to set some intentions around what you want out of those. Make sure if you do have a conversation on the 17th with a partner or a spouse or somebody committed to you, what you really want to do is listen, because in order for things to be mutual, everybody's needs kind of have to be addressed. Now, not everybody's needs are always going to be met all at the same time, but it's a really good idea to make sure everybody's on the same page. Okay, because sometimes our insecurities get in the way and it's hard to have conversations. So have some listening ears and be prepared to be clear without fear when you have a discussion like that. It's not a horrible day for it on the 17th. And you're like, you've told everybody else it's not a great day. Well, yeah, the moon will be opposite Pluto for that new moon. And yeah, it's squaring off with the nodes. But if you've been struggling, this is probably a good time to move through that and set some good good intentions. The 8th house, the moon will be moving through the 8th house while it's in Leo. This could be some interesting times because if you're dealing with anything of real value, any investments, there might be a hiccup on the 18th or 19th. Um, but don't go down the rabbit hole of worry. You're really good at coming up with answers and solutions. You want to be paying attention to that. It's a little quieter time. Think back to an older relative who may have contributed greatly to your life. It could have been a grandparent, a parent, an auntie, an uncle. They told you something a long time ago, and that wisdom carries with you. That's part of your inheritance, is some of the wisdom passed on to you by elder relatives. And if you didn't know anybody like that, maybe you want to tune in and just kind of ask your guidance for some help. It's not a good time to sit with worry because while the moon is in, Leo, it's just going to get overblown, and that's not going to help you make decisions. You might want to dig down and do some research. Pay attention to your intuition when you're doing that, and you'll find some very interesting information. The moon in Virgo will be in your 9th house. And man, you may be on a spontaneous trip. You may be taking off and driving. If you're dealing with a legal issue, things kind of work better in your favor on the 21st. You get a little bit of luck that you haven't had for a while. And it feels a little bit better. So again, don't worry about stuff while the moon's moving through that 8th house. If the moon in Virgo, when the moon in Virgo is moving through the 9th, you get an advantage. It's actually a pretty great transit, and you might be motivated to kind of get out there and make stuff happen. Like I know you normally do. You're kind of a make it happen kind of person, but there we go. The 10th house, the moon is moving through the 10th house, and Libra on the 22nd through the 25th. There might be a breakthrough. And if you've been having problems in your business or in your workplace, they kind of come to a head on the 25th. The weekend isn't too bad, especially the 22nd, but the 23rd, 24th, there's an underlying hum of tension, and you can feel it. And if there's been a problem happening at work with a boss or with a business partner, that's gonna kind of hit a kaboom at because you might have a Popeye moment. You might be like, I am who I am, I can stand no more. And if you're young and you don't know who Popeye is, just go look it up. You can even watch the Robin Williams movie from the early 80s. It's very good. All right, Aquarius rising, or if the moon in Cancer is moving through your 6th house, July 15th through the 17th. At least part of that was the weekend, but if you work weekends, you might have been a little emotional, a little sensitive. People might be on edge on Monday. That new moon is great for you. If you are done with your job, this is a great time to set intentions to go somewhere else. You don't have to quit. Don't quit till you have something else, but it's a great time to look for other positions, because you've got a little bit more in your favor when it comes to that. The only thing holding you back is you, Aquarius rising. Seriously, you've got to stop worrying about it. You got to stop thinking you don't have what it takes. You're right about stuff, but you think other people don't see that in you, and they do. So Monday is a great day to sit and set intentions. And if you've been in interviews, you might be signing new contract, probably like the 18th, because the moon moves into Leo late on the 7th. You might get an email after work that's very promising, and that's very nice. You might be, if you have a spouse or you have a best friend, somebody who's in partnership with you, or even clients, you might be dealing with them on the 18th, 19th, and 20th. Um, and when the moon is in Leo, there might be some good agreements. It might be more fun. You might just be having fun with them too, Um, but there could be some new agreements that come to you. And then the moon moves into Virgo on the 20th. And if it's sliding through your eighth house, this is a little quieter time, but it's a really good time for you to kind of dig down into your special interests. It's a good time to set some routine for yourself. You could sit and work on a research project. Maybe if you are looking to get hired, maybe that's where you're, getting into the Google and looking for better positions and thinking about what you really want. And you will have some kind of interesting good fortune. Um, on the 21st. There's a really good transit for you there. You might realize that it's kind of almost like in The Wizard of Oz when the scarecrow realizes they have a brain, or the cowardly lion realizes they've got courage, or the tin man realizes he has a heart. There's something you've had all along, and it's really great treasure. Okay. It could be an investment. You might find an old 401k, but I honestly think that would be the most boring result. I think you're going to find there's something that you really have that's in your favor that helps you get to the next level. And you're like, really, Lori, I'd like to find that one for that 401k. And when I tell you that would be the most boring result, believe me. If the moon's moving through the ninth house when it hits Libra for you, that would be through the 22nd through the 25th. Again, like everybody else, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, not bad. If you're doing long distance travel, those days should be okay. It's the 25th. I don't think you're going to have an accident. I don't think anything bad's going to happen to you, but you could see big delays, big issues. It could be weather related. It could be schedule snafus. It's just, there could be stuff up on deck. Now, if you're looking at enrolling into a college program, or because I don't know when admissions happen, I'm old. All this stuff has changed. But if you're looking at doing higher education, teaching, training, looking at production of manuscripts, theater, any of that, and I know SAG is striking, but there's certain productions that can happen that aren't tied to the strike. You can always go to the SAG website and look if you are an actor, or the WGA site. They all have information about what you can and cannot do. Um, anything to do with production will be up on deck, and the 25th is a little gnarly. So my warning is if you are planning a road trip, if you are planning to travel on the 25th, just make sure you have all of your ducks in a row. Be careful. Don't do it too whimsically, and watch out. It's probably external versus internal, so it's probably not your car. It could be like you get caught in a pileup or something, and I'm not saying you get in the pileup, but it's just, there's a delay. So be careful traveling on the 25th if you're in Aquarius rising. It doesn't mean you shouldn't travel. Just be aware of delays and issues. Okay. Pisces rising. Pisces rising. I've got the moon moving through the fifth house in Cancer. So if you're a Pisces rising, or you've got fifth house Cancer, uh, the new moon is a great time to set intentions around. If you do, now I'm going to say, for those of you who do want to get pregnant, and I'm not saying you will get pregnant with this new moon, but it is a good time to set intentions around fertility. If you have kids, it's time to kind of set intentions around your relationship with them. If they're adults, if they're little ones, just maybe thinking of what you want to do the rest of the summer, how things are going to go, or maybe if you're working on your parenting, that's a time to set intentions around that, what you want to learn, how you want to be. Don't beat yourself up as a parent. It's not useful. We just do our best to make corrections as we can. If you're an artist or a creative, this is a great time to set intentions around those creative projects, your babies, right? And if the moon is moving through the sixth house or Leo on July 17th through the 20th, you're looking at your work life. There ain't no balance right now. None. There's no balance right now. But it's way up on deck. You might be really, really busy. There might be some drama, big surprise on the 17th because Mercury will be square Jupiter. Oh, how fun. Careful driving on the 18th, 17th, 18th. Be careful driving. It's not you. It's not you. It's everybody else. Because people are going to be a little bit weird with that Mercury square Jupiter. So just be paying attention. Of course, you get the lucky, save. So just be paying attention. Um, with the moon in the 6th house, you'll be busy for real. You'll be busy and you may get some opportunities as well. Keep your eye out for that. Make sure you're walking, exercising, but be careful in the heat. Don't heat exhaust yourself if you're in one of the areas having record temperatures. The moon moves into the 7th house when it's in Virgo for you. It's a relatively good transit, and when it comes to contracts and agreements, if you've been waiting on a new contract, that might show up on the 21st. If you're in a relationship, do be careful though, because we have Moon Mars conjunct that can be very contentious if you're in a contentious relationship. Okay. If your relationship is good, then you're just active and having fun. Remember, it's a spectrum, right? And so, but you could have an offer of a new contract. You could be signing a lease. You could be signing a work agreement. You could be gaining a new client. You could be just active with a partner. Any of that through the 22nd. And the sun goes into Leo on the 22nd, lighting up your 6th house. So if you've been looking for work, Leo season might be in your favor, even when Venus goes retrograde in the 6th, because you might have thought you lost an opportunity, but that opportunity might arrive back again. So remember, just because one ship sails doesn't mean they've all sailed. The moon is moving through the 8th house, the 22nd through the 25th for you. This doesn't have to be such a low time when the moon is in Libra. It's a great time to sit and kind of work on your intuition. It's a good time to do research. It's a good time to, kind of dig down and get some quiet time. It would be a good time to work maybe on an intuitive art project, maybe, nothing like complex, but just something to help you focus and just understand your intuition will be very, very heightened that day. So pay attention. You might want to journal or take notes. The 25th, if your spidey senses go off on the 25th morning, pay attention to that because you're going to be very acutely sensitive that day. It's not a time to panic. It's not a time to freak out. But if your intuition says, hey, you should go do this, pay attention to that and listen and follow it. I kind of look forward to hearing what you pay attention to because that's a very strong transit. So there may be something that comes in. You may even get some surprise support that day. So that's the horoscopes. That's the horoscopes. So pay attention to these things. Remember, you've got the new video. It's up here on YouTube, but it's also in the Patreon where you can find the transits outside of the wheel. We've got Woke Astrology Live happening on the 23rd, where Casey, Mackenzie, and Jennifer and me read people to filth. Zach is one of those people. We're going to be reading Zach, Orla, and Madison. And there are tickets available to come watch us read people to filth. That's right. Because I like taking care of my astrologers. All right, guys. Much love. Take care. And we'll see you next week for Horoscopes Live. Always good to see your bright, shiny faces. And I'll get the chapters in here. Bye.